The average American silently lost close to $1,000 last year, not to a bad investment, not to a market crash, not to a financial crisis. To nothing, to the simple, measurable absence of financial education. No one took it, no one stole it. It just moved, quietly, through dozens of small decisions made with incomplete information, and it never came back. You work, you get paid, you spend, you wait to get paid again. And somewhere in the space between those paychecks, there's a question that never quite goes away. Not loud, not dramatic, just there, this low, persistent feeling that no matter how hard you work, the gap between where you are and where you want to be doesn't seem to close. You're not reckless, you're not lazy. You're operating with the same financial lens you had at 18, inside a financial system that has been redesigned multiple times since then. That is not a character flaw, it is a gap, and gaps have a price. Every financial decision you make today, from what you do with your paycheck to whether you negotiate your salary to what sits idle in a savings account earning almost nothing, is being processed through a system you didn't consciously build. And here is what most people never sit with long enough. That system is costing you right now, quietly, in ways that don't appear on any statement. This isn't about tips, it isn't about motivation. This is about what financial education actually returns, and why, when you run the real calculation, it outperforms almost everything else competing for your time and attention. There is a concept that every serious investor understands: return on investment. You put something in, money, time, energy, and you measure what comes back. Most people apply this framework to stocks, real estate, business, but no one seems to ask the foundational question underneath all of it: what is the return on financial education itself? Not investing in a specific asset, not following a particular strategy, just actually understanding how money moves, how systems work, how the decisions you make today compound silently into the life you'll have in 10 years. When you run that calculation, something uncomfortable surfaces. The return isn't just high, it is disproportionate, asymmetric in a way that almost nothing else in personal finance can match. Think about what most people prioritize before financial literacy. A gym membership, and that discipline is real, physical self-mastery matters. But the knowledge that governs your body will not tell you what to do at 55 when you realize you've spent 40 years working for money that was never working for you. A new certification, a new skill, a new credential to earn more, also intelligent. But here is what no one says out loud: earning more with the same financial lens doesn't build wealth, it just raises the stakes of the same game. The person who doubles their income and triples their lifestyle isn't building freedom. They are building a more expensive version of the same trap. And then the most seductive priority of all: just starting. Put money somewhere, anywhere, because doing feels better than studying, because action feels more productive than learning. But money moved by someone who doesn't understand where it's going doesn't build wealth, it just moves. Financial education is the filter through which every other financial decision either comes into focus or blurs into a slow, invisible loss. Without it, you can earn more, save harder, diversify aggressively, and still end up in exactly the same position 5 years from now, just more tired. Hold this image for a moment. Two people, same city, same salary, same access to the same markets, the same accounts, the same opportunities. 5 years later, one has built meaningful savings, reduced the number of hours she has to trade for money, and understands exactly how to protect what she earns. The other is earning slightly more and is somehow in deeper debt. Most people assume the difference is luck or inheritance or some invisible advantage they didn't receive. But the research doesn't support that narrative. Studies on financial literacy and wealth accumulation have found something that stops most people cold. Financial knowledge explains differences in retirement wealth more powerfully than income level, education level, or inheritance. Not more money, more knowledge. The filter wasn't their salary, it was the lens through which they saw what to do with it. Now the cost, not in abstract terms, in numbers. The National Financial Educators Council surveys Americans annually on the economic impact of financial illiteracy. In 2025, the average American reported losing $948 directly attributable to a lack of financial knowledge, not bad luck, not market conditions, decisions made with the wrong information or no information at all. Over a decade, that is close to $10,000, gone quietly, without drama, without a single crisis moment. But that is only the visible number. The invisible number is what those dollars could have become, invested, compounded, growing silently in the background while you were living your life. That is where the real cost lies, not in what left, in what was never allowed to arrive. And here's what makes this genuinely uncomfortable. 66% of Americans are currently living paycheck to paycheck. That isn't because America is a poor country. It is because more than half of all adults are navigating one of the most complex financial systems in human history without ever being taught how it works. They are operating machinery they were never given the manual for. Most people respond to this with a plan. I'll learn about investing when I have something to invest. I'll study personal finance when my situation is more stable. I'll prioritize financial education once the immediate pressure is lower. But the stability you're waiting for is precisely what financial education produces. You cannot earn your way out of a knowledge gap. Income without understanding doesn't close the gap, it widens the consequences of it. And the longer the delay, the more expensive it becomes, not because the information changes, but because time is the one resource that financial literacy compounds through. Every year without it is a year of compounding that happened to someone else instead of you. Here is what financial education actually returns, and why it is unlike almost any other investment. A dollar invested in the market over 30 years grows, but it can also fall. It dropped 40% in 2008 and took years to recover. It requires patience, discipline, and the tolerance for loss most people claim to have until they don't. A dollar's worth of financial knowledge never loses value. It doesn't depreciate, it isn't taxed, it doesn't require a brokerage account or a minimum balance, and it returns differently than any asset because it multiplies every future decision it touches. One principle understood about compound interest changes how you see every debt you carry immediately. One concept grasped about inflation changes what you do with money sitting idle in a low-yield account. One framework internalized about opportunity cost changes how you evaluate every purchase, every contract, every financial commitment for the rest of your life. This is the asymmetric return that wealth building through discipline actually looks like. You invest once in time and attention, and it pays across every financial decision you'll make for the next 40 years. And unlike any market position, it cannot be taken from you. The person who genuinely understands how money works is not merely more financially secure. They are free in a way that income alone can never produce, because they are no longer dependent on conditions they cannot control. They make decisions from clarity instead of anxiety, from understanding instead of habit. That is the real return, not a number on a screen, freedom from operating blind. The shift doesn't arrive because you suddenly earn more. It arrives the moment you stop navigating a financial system you don't understand. When someone builds genuine financial literacy, not motivational frameworks, not productivity hacks, not surface-level tips, but actual working knowledge of how money moves, something quiet changes in how they see their situation. The same paycheck carries different weight. The same expenses reveal what they actually cost. The same decisions feel different because they're being made with fundamentally different information. This is what self-mastery over money actually looks like, not the spectacle of wealth, not the performance of financial discipline. Just clarity, a clear, unambiguous understanding of where you are, where your money is going, and what it's doing when you're not watching. That clarity is not a luxury. It is the foundation every other financial decision either rests on or eventually collapses without. There is one more thing worth holding. Knowing that financial education matters is not the same as having it, and the gap between recognizing something as important and actually doing the work to understand it, that gap is exactly where most people live indefinitely for years. The question isn't whether financial literacy deserves to be a priority. The numbers answer that clearly. The question is simpler and harder. What is it costing you specifically, measurably, every month to keep it optional? If you've been operating on autopilot, earning, spending, waiting, wondering why it doesn't add up, the most disciplined move you can make right now has nothing to do with your portfolio or your budget. It starts one decision before that.